Okay, I think we can start. We have a full house. So I'm Bill Echikson, the director of the Brussels office for the European Union of Progressive Judaism. I'm delighted to have as our guest Sergio Bergman, the president of the World Union of Progressive Judaism, our mothership, so to speak. This is the latest of our webinars. We're trying to do them once every month and with a wide variety of Jewish topics and topics of interest to progressive Jews around the world. Sergio's a rabbi, of course, but he's also a politician, social activist, climate change activist, and, as I said, the president of the World Union of Progressive Judaism. Sergio was born in Buenos Aires in 1962. He studied first biochemistry and pharmaceuticals as an undergraduate. He did do his postgraduate education in Israel, and he was ordained as a rabbi in 1992. So it brings a very interesting background. Sergio has always been engaged politically and socially, as well as religiously. He founded the Arlene Fern Community School in Buenos Aires. And in 2011, he became the first rabbi ever elected to public office in Argentina. He served as a representative of the City of Buenos Aires at first. In 2013, he was elected to represent the city at the nation's Congress. And in 2015, President Mauricio Macri named him Minister for Environment and Sustainable Development. And that position he held until the end of 2019, when I assume the government was changed in Argentina and Sergio joined us at the World Union. Rabbi Bergman is good friends with his fellow Argentine, Pope Francis, and he's married and has 4 children. Sergio, welcome.
Thank you, Bill. Really, it's a privilege to be here in this webinar and working together with our European Union for Progressive Judaism. I'm really glad to have this open conversation and to interchange some ideas and the challenges that we need to face in these difficult times.
I agree. And I hope, please do send in the chat box your questions if you have them, and we'll pose them to Sergio. We have about an hour, and so we can have a good, fruitful, full conversation. Sergio, just let's start with a little personal history. How did your family get to Argentina? And what was it like growing up Jewish in Argentina?
Yes, that my grandparents arrived to Argentina. They have the opportunity, the blessed opportunity to go out before all the Second World come like a long line to every one of our families. You know, this is very interesting because we that they are the son of the grandson of the survivors, we really realize how important it is to keep our biography, that is part of our Jewish history, that is the root of our memory, that give us the sense and the meaning of how important it is to keep going with our Jewish identity. Not only because we don't come for, yes, sorry?
Sorry to interrupt. Where did they come from and why did they choose Argentina, not the United States, not France?
Yes, they come from Lodz, from Poland. 4 of them, for the side of my mom and my pop. The interesting thing, Bill, they come in the same ship, you know? What's really interesting, the same ship from the same city, they come to Argentina, and then they have a son and a daughter, Argentinian, both of them, that was my parents. And they come from Lodz, from Argentina. And your question is very interesting because, you know, what is the only difference that we have with the Jewish immigrants that arrived to the US and some of them that come down to Argentina, Latin America? The only difference, we are the same family. We come from the same places. The only difference, some of them take the ship to the north and some of them take a ship to the south. And then I really proud for my family history and also my Argentinian identity, but really, you know, the big difference between if you make the mistake and you take the ship to the south, then you come to an undeveloped country. If you take the ship to the north, you are in the first world, but we are the same people, we are the same family. And then when we meet, this is part of the strength of to be part of the extended family of the World Union. When we meet each other and we start to talk, but we are the same. We are like an extended family. And this is one of the reasons, because we come from the same places. The only difference is the ship that they take to escape. And now we reconnect the history around the world.
Yep, I agree. My parents went, great-grandparents went to the north. What was it like, though, growing up in Argentina as a Jew? What did they find there, and what was your experience?
Argentina, it's an amazing country, but it's a country of contradictions. There are no way to explain Argentina if you are not there. In any level, I can tell something about the Jewish community in Argentina, but if you are trying to understand the politics, the economy, and how this beautiful country, plenty of human resources, natural resources, Argentina, we have everything. We can go out from being an undeveloped country. We can really build a future there. We are moving from crisis to crisis. But in this context, a country of contradictions, we need to understand Argentina is the two faces of the same coin. It's a country that offered the possibility to my family, survivors of the Holocaust, to come down and to find a beautiful country that offers the freedom, the hope, and a future. In this future, we born. But it's the same country at the same time that they host the Nazis like Eichmann and Prievke and all these people in the times of Peron government. I mean, how you can explain a country that do the two things in one move? In the same case, is the situation of the Jewish community. The Jewish community in Argentina begins to be not a religious one, was really secular and socialist Jews, very Zionist. We are a background of to be a secular and Zionist community. Very small Orthodox groups in the beginning before 200 years. When Argentina opened the borders and invite all the people to come, all the immigrants. We need to understand the Jewish history in Argentina like a general context, that is that Argentina was proactive to invite immigrants to come down from Europe, from many places. Most of them from Spain, most of them from Italy, and some of them refugees that we are in this wave. In this part of the history, the background was secular. My personal story, I grew in a secular home. I attend Jewish day schools, but was Yiddishist. My first language that I learned was Spanish, of course, but the second one was Yiddish, because my grandparents speak Yiddish. My parents don't speak, but they understood. And myself, I take from first grade in the primary school until the fourth one, I learned Yiddish. Ich rede Yiddish, avísale. From the fourth grade to the seventh one, Hebrew. Then I continue my studies in Ort School, the Ort School, the worldwide network of Ort School. But I was in the secular background. When I get the 13 years old, I want to have my bar mitzvah. And then my parents, that they have no background in religious education, they choose the Reform community in Buenos Aires because they want to understand. They want to have some place that offer to you to be modern and also to come back to the tradition and the religious life. And then I come to Emmanuel Congregation. Emmanuel Congregation was the center of the Reform Judaism in Argentina. And from my bar mitzvah, I start my way in the Reform movement. And Argentina is a country of immigrants, but also is an amazing challenge to integrate the Jewish people in the world society. There are Jewish people in every activity in Argentina. Artists, scientific, businessman, religious representative. And this is something really amazing because this is a huge difference between assimilate to integrate. Argentina is a case of integration. That means that we don't have anti-Semitism, because you remember very well, Argentina, in the same way that make this openness and invite you to be part of the society, we have in the last years, you remember the huge terrorist attack in Buenos Aires in 1992, the bombing of the Israel embassy, in 1994, the bombing of the Jewish headquarters. In the same way that we have this kind of attack that is against Argentina's sovereignty, but exactly against the Jewish people, I come into politics. And Argentina is the same country that offered to the Iranian terrorist to make his work easy, the two bombings, is the same country that allowed me to come into politics and to be the first officer. The people vote, not the Jewish community, the people, the Argentinian people vote. And then I get 350,000 votes of Argentinian citizens of the city of Buenos Aires to become a congressman. And the people know that I am Jewish, that I'm a rabbi, that I am representing not the Jewish community, I'm representing universal values to the society. And this is the same country. That means it's not easy to understand, but it's amazing to say that we have the two fronts. One front that is very positive and proactive, integration, how we offer the Jewish identity to the Argentinian society, and the other front that is very scary, bombings, terrorist attacks, anti-Semitism, Nazis in Argentina. And this is part of the contradiction of a beautiful and amazing country like my country, Argentina.
Interesting. Some call you the Pope's rabbi, Sergio. How did you meet the future Pope? What is your relationship with him?
Yes, but you know, maybe it's the opposite. I am all the time saying that Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, he's my rabbi because he was my teacher. Why? Because I remember very well the last crisis. Argentina lived from crisis to crisis, but the last one that was a huge one was in 2001. In 2001, we have a big crisis of the political system, an economic and social disaster. And I saw there the Bishop of Buenos Aires, was Bergoglio, going out telling we need to be proactive and to be involved in these general issues. If the political system don't work, the civil society needs to take over a responsibility and not to complain and not to be an audience, to be proactive, to be part of the solution and not only part of the problem. Then for me was an inspiration because I don't have in my time a rabbi that is ready to do that, to link between ethical values, religion, and politics. I remember very well in the history of Argentina, we have some cases, right? Rabbi Roberto Kretz, that is a reformer, my personal rabbi when I made my bar mitzvah in Emmanuel congregation, or Rabbi Marshall Mayer from the conservative movement, when we have all the crisis of human rights. And they was like leading cases. They have not really hesitate to be involved with this risk when we have the military process on this person in Argentina. And then I can tell you, 40 years later, my challenge was, I need to do something. I can't stay only in my temple. I can't stay only working in my community. And outside, I saw the Bishop of Buenos Aires saying, we need to go, we need to participate. And then I visit him, 2002. I say, Bergoglio, Jorge, I am here. I am in this time, I was a young rabbi. I'm here in the Temple of Israel, that is like the Jewish cathedral of Buenos Aires. I want to be involved. And say, yes, but you know, it's not easy. Take care. Politics is not easy. But you are saying that. And we, the rabbis, this is interesting because we are very close with the Jewish Christian dialogue, but we are different paradigms of spiritual traditions because we have the common roots that it's true. Don't forget that Jesus was a rabbi. very revolutionary, but was a rabbi. And we have the same theology, values, but we have a different way to run our religion. The rabbis, we are not priests. The rabbis, we are teachers. We are not priests. And in several countries, we are like a secular citizen. The priests, they can go to elections and to be involved because they need the formal permission of the church. But we're the rabbis, we are not in this system. And I say, but I need to be involved. I am not a priest, I'm a rabbi. I need to become a role model to my people. I can't talk to them in the synagogue that we need to really follow the voice of the prophet of Israel and to fight to a society that have justice and social action. We need to do something in real scale, not to give testimony, to change. We are talking all the time, Tikkun Olam, Tikkun Am, okay. And then I take his advice, and from this time, not only we keep our dialogue, I am saying he was my mentor to come into politics. Then he became the Pope, imagine. But really, we continue to have a personal conversation, but I really take care about our relationship because I don't use it in a public forum because I know what is his position, what is my position. I am really grateful of his advice and really the performance because he's really a good example how you can match in a good way spirituality and politics.
Mm-hmm. No, interesting. I mean, what type you said you shared this sort of caring for ethical politics and ethical action. Do you agree on most issues with the Pope, or do you have serious? What would you agree on? What would you disagree? What would you disagree?
No, it's very interesting because he come from the Jesuitas, and the Jesuitas, there are some kind of Catholic leaders that they are really appreciating if you don't agree with everything that they say. And I think that he take me like a disciple, like a protected student to come into politics because he really felt that we can share values, but we have different approaches and we have discussion. I really discuss with him. I say, no, I don't agree with this and that. But for me, it's clear that one of the major issues that I can share with you is, first of all, we have a different point of view about theology, about the sin, if we are guilty, how we can fix it. If we really believe that in the new dimension, when we pass away, we can really fix what we do here. I don't believe that. The Jewish tradition don't believe that. And we need to do it here. Also about abortion, the right of the women, the role of the women in religion and in the community, in different issues. But the main issue is that the theology that he really supports is to put the poor people like a blessed people because they are poor. Because they think that only if you are poor, you can realize the Christian values in 100%. Because if you are not a poor person, I don't saying that poor is that you don't have the minimum of the human rights. It's not misery, it's to be poor. That means if you move forward and you move from poor to middle class, then you come into a process of secularization. And you go away from the Christian values of poverty. That is something clear in the New Testament. It's clear that the kingdom of the heaven will be for the poor people. And all the time I'm saying, but this is the seed of populism, Jorge. I think that we need to make a clear distinction about to be really with social justice and solidarity with the poor people, but this is for us not charity. It's not a way that you show up your love. This is tzedakah, that is justice. It's a justice of equality in distribution. But we need to push the people to move ahead. We like people that is rich. It's not a sin to be rich, because if you are rich, you can share. That means that we have a lot of discussion also about politics. We have discussion. Bill, can you hear me? Hello?
Bill seems to have lost his internet connection momentarily,
Ah,
so I'm sure he'll join back in just a few seconds.
you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
I know I concerned if it was my fault, but it's
No,
okay.
no. It's the internet. We're always fighting a poor internet connection.
Okay. I suppose that he's coming back.
Yes.
I'm sorry, because it was in the middle of a very interesting question.
Yes. Yeah, really.
No?
So Bill should be back in a second. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back. And
I am back. Okay.
I think it was my internet, not yours.
No, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Okay.
You raised several issues about what you were in agreement with the Pope and what you were in disagreement with. Let's start also about us as liberal Jews, progressive Jews versus traditional Jews. Where do you see the role of women, and how should you would differ from the Pope and our co-religionists?
I think that, now this is a worldwide concern. I am really glad to know that not only with the Me Too movement, the position of women in every activity is something that it's not that we allow, it's something that we need. And this is a huge change, because show up that the evolution of the humankind. For me, it's a signal not of a reivindication. It's not the same reivindication that evolution. Because we live in sometimes the reivindication of feminism. And the reivindication, the problem that we have is that women say, I want to have the same rights that the male have. Now we are in another stage. The evolution is how we can use the powerful leadership of women. That is not the same power, this is not the same potential that have the men we have. One of the big distinctions that I think that is why the culture built up the centrality of men in secular society was because we have some envy about something that we can do, the men, that is to bring life. But if we come back to the sources of the cultural traditions from the original people, you know that some of them, really, they worship the earth, they worship the gods like women, not like man. And also, if we come back to the Torah and we read carefully Bereshit and all the story, you can show there that on the front, you have the patriarchs. But on the back, the only one that managed all the story was the matriarchs. No, we are thinking all the time about Abraham. Okay, Abraham, a good guy, but all the life of Abraham was management by Sarah. But it's not that a good man have behind a woman. No, I say, but side by side, together like partners, in every responsibility, in every place, in every opportunity. And this is one of the credits of the reform movement. When we reform the tradition, we gave back to the women the first place that they deserve. And not at home, not with the children, and not at the kitchen. Not leading our institution, our religion movement, our countries, everything that they deserve, because it's good for everyone. It's not good for the woman. It's good for everyone.
When you say this to the Pope, what does he say?
This is a process. No, this is a process. He say, you know, this is one of the great average that Catholic Church, not all the Christianity, but Catholic Church have. They can make some decisions, no problem. You have it on all the documents of the Vatican, but maybe it takes 100 years, 1,000 years to go down to all the structure. That means that we have a really revolutionary thinking in the Catholic Church. Bergoglio is one of them, but in the practicalities and in the political field. If you want to check the revolution in the Catholic Church in Vatican, you need to go back to Ratzinger, to Benedictus. He made the revolution, and he allowed to Bergoglio to come in to make all these changes. But the real thinker, the theological background of this change comes from the two popes. Now, it's the first time in the history that we are witness in the Catholic Church, in the humanity, living with two popes. But the guy that makes the move, that is, for me, is the genius of the change, is Ratzinger and Benedictus, because you need to have the vision to resign to a permanent position and to say, I resign. Only when he resigned, he allowed to make the change. And they come Bergoglio to make all these changes. And he is committed to give to the women in the Catholic Church more positions. He's doing that, not like priests. But this is the first move. But he really feels like very, very, very close to our Orthodox fellows, that to the women there are some specific roles and positions that will be a process. He's liberal in the vision and more conservative in the timing.
Got it. Where do you see interfaith, what relations going, not only with the Catholic Church, but with Islam? And what would you like to accomplish?
I think that this is one of the more important things that we, the religious leader, we need to achieve. Dialogue. Ecumenical dialogue, that means between the Jewish people, you know, because we use the term ecumenical in the other religions, and they are working on that. If you are talking with the Christianity, they have a lot of work ecumenical, not with Jewish people, between the different streams in the Christianity. That this is something that we need to learn, and it's something that we need to invest, not to polarize, because you can define that you are a liberal, reform, progressive Jew because you are not like the Orthodox. This is very bad for us. It's not a good thing for us. We need to really to define ourselves in positive way, in a proactive way, what we believe, why we want to be, fulfilled to the roots and the tradition, and open mind to the future. But that means that we reject the option to Orthodox people. Our problem is when our Orthodox fellows come out and they want to impose us his view, that they don't allow us to be free and to choose. The more clear example is Israel, but it's not in the only place. I think that, yes, we need to talk about interfaith, intercultural dialogue. That is not the same. I believe more in intercultural dialogue and not only in interfaith. Because when we are talking about interfaith, you know, Bill, all the time we are talking about Abrahamic traditions. That means Christianity, Jewish, and Muslim. But we have a lot of more people that believes in a different way. Why we need to have interdialogue only with Christian and Muslims? We have all the Oriental traditions. We have a lot of people that we can learn and we can talk. On the other hand, you are right. The next agenda is to upgrade the good dialogue that we have with the Christianity with the Christianity leaders to the Islam. This is our next challenge, because the interfaith and intercultural dialogue is the only clear strategy to pursue to achieve peace. The peace, shalom, comes only after a truly open, transparent, and fair dialogue.
Now, your main interest in politics seems to have been the environment, and we do have a question about the environment. And
Sure.
Why did you choose that as your field for action? What challenges did you face? What do you think your major accomplishments were as minister?
Yes, I really need to thank President Macri that he gave me the opportunity. Was the first president in our country that decided to open a Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development. Before that, we have a very small office, but not in the status of a ministry. And this is important not only for a country, for the world, also for me, this is a clear action of our Jewish tradition. It's not new for the Jewish tradition, the opposite, you know. The new thing is all the people are talking about climate change and all the people are talking about the future of the world. But in the Jewish tradition, it's so clear our commitment about Tikkun Olam. And this is a clear action aligned with our vision of Tikkun Olam. For me, when he offered me the possibility, was really a huge opportunity, you know, Bill, because I can really, in this position, the last 4 years, I really match two circles of my history. Because first of all, I study all the science and technical careers. My high school, my university in Buenos Aires, I, like a biochemistry and pharmacist, I know the technicalities about the job. And then I moved to social action and to become a rabbi, that is the humanistic approach. And then if you have the technical knowledge and you have your commitment with the values and the humanistic commitment that a rabbi, a leader takes, you can blend, you can match between the two things. And you know what? All the time, my paradigm in my work like a politician in the Ministry of Environment in Argentina and all the worldwide conversation that we run, I was administering in Argentina exactly when we signed the Paris Agreement. That means was really a stage that you can really build relationship and collaboration, because the challenge is from the humanity. It's not for a country. Are not borders here. Are not nationalities. If you want really to take care about the common house, we need to realize that we are only one family in only one house. That means it's again dialogue, peace, commitment, tikkun olam, and the more important thing, this is a biblical stuff. This is a biblical work. My work is like to become a modest and a little one Noah. We need to build the ark. The flood is coming, Bill. The flood is coming. We need to build the ark. And then build the ark is really against the global warming, against how we consume, how we produce, how we use energy. This is our new ark. We need to really to save the world.
What would you say were your major challenges in Argentina as minister then? And what do you think of our present fight against climate change? Is it going forward or backwards?
Oh, we are in the same dilemma that every country. We are an undeveloped country, and you know that here we have a very huge discussion, because when Paris Agreement was signed, a lot of money was there on the table to help the countries to fulfill the commitments, because it was the first agreement that every country needs to say, I don't have only good wills. Here I have numbers. How much I am ready to pay to reduce the emissions. And then you can say, I commit myself to reduce the emission. No, I need to bring to you a number. A number means if you want to reduce your emissions, you need to bring some specific track programs in different fields. What you want to do with your energy, what you want to do with your transportation, what you want to do with your forest. This package we built very seriously, and I can tell you, we succeed to come back to the world, to come back to the global conversation, and all the people really recognize that Argentina takes serious commitment that, we need to pass the examination in 2030. That is the year that we need to fulfill all the SDGs. That means all the sustainable development goals. We have all the world. We have a final exam in 2030. In the other hand, I can tell you that I work very hard, and one of the most important achievements of our work in environment in Argentina was in the last 4 years, we duplicate the number of national parks. And I can tell you, this is one of the more important things that we need to do. That is part also of our Jewish commitment of legacy. What we are ready to do in our time to ensure to our kids and the next generations that they will have the right, because a sustainable life and environment, it's not that you are a green guy, that you are an ecologist. No, this is part of our commitment with human rights, because to have nature in a sustainable world is a human right.
Interesting. I think we're getting questions, Sergio, about the World Union.
Sorry.
Which I think is important that we spend the rest of the interview or our event on the World Union. The question is, basically people want to know also, what is the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and what do you see as its main challenges and your main goals?
Yes, we are aware about that the world continues to change in an overwhelming speed. That means every question and every answer in the context, because we know that we come back to the same live before the COVID crisis. But the World Union have a clear mission, is to connect. We are a worldwide platform that connects 1.8 million of Jewish progressive reform, liberal reconstructive, 1,200 congregations in 50 countries. That means we are like the formal umbrella of all these organizations, and our task is to become like a global organization, the platform to connect, that empower and support our communities around the world. Because you know that the real work of the Jewish progressive world, it's on the ground, in every community, in every country. And we need to support this work. Our challenge is education, because without education, we don't have not only future, we don't have identity. Education gives us the values and also the feeling why we need to be learning communities, caring communities, open communities that include diversity, and also take some commitment to change the world and to change our leadership. There are only two major issues that we need really to take care of. One of them is the leadership. Without leaders, we can change the world. And the second one is the Jewish content. If we don't teach the new generation how they need to be open-minded to make a new interpretation, because if we are the reform movement, we need to reform. That means that we can be reformodoxim. That means the reform is an ongoing process. For me, the challenge is to allow the new generation to take over our lead, to build the future in the present, and to support our communities around the world. Also, we need to work very hard about advocacy. In the challenge time that we are living, that anti-Semitism becomes anti-Zionism, and we need really to be there to support the state of Israel. That don't mean to support the government of Israel, because a government, like every government in every country, you can criticize because it's a mistake. I don't agree. I don't support. That's okay. But we, the reform movement, have a very clear commitment with the state of Israel, and we need to work in our advocacy. How you can advocacy for Israel if you don't teach your kids, if you don't deliver education? Reform and Zionist education that allow us to face the future with new challenges. We need to include technology. I think that we have a huge opportunity in this crisis because right now the World Union becomes a virtual platform. This virtual platform that starts in next May with Connections 21. We used to have connection every time in Jerusalem, in our headquarters. And the people travel and we have 200, 300, 400 leaders there working together in our common agenda. Now the challenge in next May is to use the virtual platform to invite everyone to be part. You don't need to travel. You don't need to spend your money in hotel. We are ready to be connected. Now we are running together, and this is part of the challenge and also is part of the credit of the leadership. Carol Sterling, our chairwoman, he take the lead and say, yes, this is the challenge. New times, crisis, opportunities, technology, virtual platform to connect everyone with our challenge, but the regions are our stakeholders. This is something very important for me. The World Union is not on the top.
Right. We do have a question from Prague that sort of follows up on what you've been saying, which is, what will be the impact of the COVID crisis on progressive Judaism in general? Beyond the opportunities of Zoom like we're doing, are there other impacts?
Yes. The right answer, we don't know. We don't know, because we are really overwhelmed about the speed of every change. Who knows exactly the new world that we will face when we come back? We don't know, but here we need to learn from our Jewish memory. We are not that we need to survive to the COVID crisis. The first thing, for sure, is to keep our people healthy and safe. This is really the challenge. But in the other hand, we want to become resilient. We are a resilient people. We learn from every challenge in the history how we can learn. And what is the future? For me, the future that is coming is a good one, because we can learn how we can connect, how we can support, and how we can face a new reality. If the question is, you know what is the new reality? My answer is no, I don't know. And you are confident that we can succeed? Yes, we will succeed, because this is part of our identity and also is part of our commitment. We don't give up. We don't lose our hope. Lo abda tikvateinu. This is part of the Atikva that we sang. This is the national hymn of Israel, but it's part of our identity. I am confident that the future will be better. That means that will be a good one, but will be better if we make it better. This is our commitment.
We talked earlier about Israel a bit,
yes.
And I know that Reform Judaism, we have challenges in Israel. How do you see those challenges being faced and overcome?
It's clear that our contribution to the Israeli society is not related only to open synagogues, to train Israeli rabbis and the worship, how we pray. It's not only about the legal amazing work that our fellows are doing about our recognition of our rights in Israel, because Israel, it's amazing. It's a country that is a startup nation, and it's right now, it's not now a poor country, Israel. It's not that it's in the back. No, the opposite. It's on the front and leading. Amazing thing in technology, in health. All the startups come from Israel, most of them. But in the other hand, Israel is living in the middle edge. Because the extortion of the Orthodox people, because the political system put Israel in a very bad place. And I think that our challenge in Israel is not only about the advocacy of the rights, it's not only about the worship in our liberal reform synagogues, it's to bring to the secular Israeli society the challenge to become a democratic and pluralistic society. But not only for us, the Reform Jews, for everyone. Because this is the dream of the Israel that we believe. Israel is not only the Israel that we saw today. Israel for us is the horizon, is the utopia, is the vision of the prophet of Israel, is the Israel that becomes if we make the right job. And also is the future of the Jewish people, because more of our population in the next 10 years will live there. That means it's not a legend, it's a fact. Herzl say that. If you believe it, it's not a legend, it's a fact. But now it's not a country.
But
It's not only a country.
Yeah. How do we as Reform progressive Jews gain equality in Israel? What are our priorities? And what will we be doing in a couple of years?
We have right now a very good example that is one of our Israeli Reform rabbis have a huge possibility to become a member of the Knesset. That means that the Reform movement in Israel can't be part of one party. But we need to be involve ourselves, like Reform Jews, in politics, in the national institutions, and in the Israel policy. Because I really respect, not because my track record, I really believe in politics. We need to make a clear distinction, Bill, between the politicians that we have and the politics that are a good thing to do. Politics. Because all this discussion is not a discussion about good willings. This discussion is about power and politics. And we lose power and we don't make the politics that we need to do. It's not to complain all the time that we are the victims of discrimination, that we don't have the rights. If you want your rights, you need to get the votes and you need to be there. Inside and outside. Also, you know, we are the only movement that in the national institutions, in the last World Science Congress, we lose. We are the only movement that we celebrate that we fail. We lose. We lose a lot of mandates. We lose because we, the Reform with our allies in our coalition, we allow to the ultra Haredim, Orthodox, not Zionist people to be part of the national institutions. This is a crazy thing. That means that we need to come back to work in every community with all of our people to explain that national institutions, politics in Israel is part of our job, that the spirituality needs gashmiut, needs something concrete that is not in the even, like the Torah. It's not in the even, it's here with us. And then I think that we need to work in the two ways. One, for us, education and leadership is our work. And outside, politics, advocacy, a very strong voice around the world.
Well, let's turn, Sonia rightly reminds me that we should get back to Europe and I think finish on your vision for how the EUPJ, European arm of the World Union, can support your work, but also your priorities for Europe and so forth.
Yes, my answer is clear. I am here to support and to work with the European region. I think that the European region is one of the main stakeholders of the World Union. We need also to include dialogue in a round table. And the European region have an important role to become a worldwide movement, because now we are the audience of, in the reform movement, the audience of a dialogue between the North American leadership and the Israel leadership. And the rest of the world, we are only seeing this dialogue. They talk between them. the US leader of the reform movement, the US leaders, they talk with the Israeli leaders. That means for me that it's very important to realize that I want really to support the renovation of the European Union. We need to really outreach new leaders, the continuity, youngest leader in every place. We need to take care about the complexity of Europe. Europe is one of the more complex places that we need to have a more flexible, creative, and open-minded way. Now we have for at least 2 major centers. One for sure is London and the UK, that is the historical one. Now we have Berlin and Germany with the amazing work of Walter and Morka and the Geiger Institute. We have our college, the Leo Beck in London, that it's our source of new rabbis and cantors. We have challenges about Din and the rules that we need to really to have an agreement between our rabbis in different countries. We have different languages in Europe. Also, we have the challenge to raise the question, the FSU countries, the 3 countries that the reform movement is working right now, Ukraine and Belarus and Russia, why they are not part of our European agenda? Because they speak Russian. You have in Europe people that speak Spanish, French, Germany, English. You have the diversity of languages. That means for me, it's an amazing challenge to really to break out all the traditional concepts that we use in the past to work in Europe and to be really open and flexible to a new Europe that we need to face together.
Yeah. What do you see as the future beyond, any more thoughts about the future of progressive Judaism in Europe? Is it more in Western Europe that we should be concentrating? Should we be combining Western and Eastern Europe or at FSU, former Soviet Union?
I really believe that we need to have an overall overview about that. We need to include the demographic challenges that we have. We need to include the diversity of culture and languages. This is part of a new I really can't make any statement because this kind of diagnosis and also future we need to discuss and to build together. I don't feel comfortable coming from outside and to say something about Europe if we don't sit together in a table. I am ready, really, I am ready to break the eggs to cook together. But the recipe is not my recipe. I am ready to cook with all of you. If we are ready to come together in a same table without any preconcept and in a very symmetric conversation, Europe must also to face not only the religious approach. We need to realize that Judaism is not only religion. We are a religious movement, but we have a wider approach because our first commitment is not what you believe and how you pray. Our first commitment are our values and an ethical approach to a Judaism that is a civilization, a culture civilization that includes religion. I include religion, but I think that we need maybe to open more tracks. We need to go out to outreach the unaffiliated people. We need to go out to outreach people that feel that there are Jews, but they don't want to have a synagogue maybe, but they are very active in the society, in arts, in culture, in philanthropy, in politics, and there are Jews. Why we, the reform movement, can outreach them to say, I don't want to affiliate you. It's not that I want to invite you to my synagogue. I want to support you in the place that you are working, but I need something. Be proud to be Jewish. And be proud to work together.
Let's continue or finish on your metaphor about preparing and scrambling the eggs and preparing. I think we're getting to dinner time in Europe, where most of us will finish up. If there are any last questions, I don't see any. I want to thank you, Sergio, for spending the hour with us. I hope there'll be additional hours. I hope there'll be a time when we can meet in person in Europe, and that we will get beyond COVID. And thank you for bringing your unique background and experience and political activism to us.
Thank
So,
you for the opportunity, and I want to share to all of you Hag Purim Sameach that is coming next week. That is the festival of the miracles and the joy. We need the miracle and we need the joy to be healthy, safe. And I wish all of you all my blessing, all the best.
Thanks. And the chats are Hag Purim Sameach. So I will thank you, and everyone have a good Sunday and a good holiday coming up. Thank you very much, Sergio.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.